The girl was originally the only prophet in the world and was proficient in the art of celestial divination, known as Xiuxianjie. But when she saw me privately, but a super lesbian who was desperate for sex, she resisted the thunder for me, and her life was unknown. Worried about causing a death, the Shen had to immediately start first aid. When he reached out to test, he found that there was no heartbeat in her chest. To treat her deeply, he had to quickly find a secluded place. However, all of this was just Zhao Qiaoqiao's disguise. She wanted to continue pretending to be asleep, to eavesdrop on more secret messages. Unexpectedly, the Shen invited the genius Dr. Hui Chun. In order to avoid exposing the secret of feigning sleep, he had to get up and hide to prevent Mr. Hui Chun from participating in the treatment. But the more the Shen avoided him and plotted something, the more excited he became. He took out a tracking talisman from his chest and started to find the Shen. My captive, once I've pasted it on you, I can find you. Then she carefully stuck it on the door, ready to eavesdrop. But somehow, there was no movement in the room. However, unexpectedly, he not only didn't give up, but he directly poked a hole in the window paper. You don't want me to listen, right? Then I have to see for myself what you are doing. But what he saw was two people tenderly touching each other. The Shen gently stroked the glowing mark with his fingers and was instantly attracted by the ancient aura. This mark is my father's. Qinshu is the symbol of the Zhang family's inheritance. Hearing this, Shen also completely believed that he was the son of an old friend. 40 years ago, I inherited my father's position. In the room, besides me and my father, there was another person. Are you the next city lord of Tianshu? You look like a long-lived person. The little man you see in Tianshu City, but just acting on behalf of my father. Master, let's get straight to the point. In addition to taking care of the Book of Heaven, you have to help me deliver a message. When the book recognizes its master, tell the owner of the Book of Heaven, take the Book of Heaven. Go to the Cave of Blessing quickly. God bless Master. Seeing Zhang Zikang's vivid imitation, the Shen couldn't help feeling sick. But from this tone, it gave him a bad feeling. And this ancient emperor supreme is your third disciple, Luo Yan. The 5 emperors now occupy the southern part of the continent, has long been a hegemon in the world. Unexpectedly, the worst one has become the overlord of the world. Fu Tian Dong Di, isn't it the barren mountain where he casually planted herbs? Just as he wondered why he was hiding it from Yaner, Zhang Zikang suddenly knelt down. Without waiting for the Shen to ask, he began to cry. My father has gone mad. Please ask Senior Wen Yan. The Shen also immediately comforted him that his father... I won't ignore it. However, Zhao Qiaoqiao, who witnessed all this outside the door, she instantly understood the reason why they left him aside. They were actually engaged in that homosexual relationship. You know that Dei Shen is his destined partner. He didn't want to give up, so he shouted and broke in. Who the hell wants to share a penis with a man? You pervert. Don't even think about it. She immediately released the sleep-inducing smoke, interrupting the Shen and the other. As the smoke cleared, the Shen and the other person were successfully knocked down. The quality of the foreign boy is good. Of course, I want to enjoy it alone. Gigi. At this moment, Tianshu suddenly rolled out. In his shocked eyes, it ran independently and emitted golden light. The next second, countless girls with charming fire powers appeared. Before he could react, they had already surrounded him. Zhao Kiao, who had no idea about the content of the book, was instantly consumed by lust and being entangled by the Book of Heaven. The little rationality she had left immediately disappeared. Then the Book of Heaven fell. He also staggered to his feet. The next second, and sat directly on the night god. At this time, Zhao Kiao, who was charmed by the book, was obviously completely out of her mind. Early in the morning, the man was suddenly awakened by a soft touch. Until he opened his eyes, he found a beautiful girl on his body. Although he didn't know what was going on, he still subconsciously pulled away. Only after careful recollection did he remember that Zhao Kiao, and he passed out. However, before he could continue to recall, the irrational Zhao Kiao stuck to him again, and then seemed to see some delicacies and sniffed frantically. This abnormal sensory behavior and this unusually excited expression, the Shen was a little confused. Zhao Kiao somehow became very close to the Shen. The next second, Zhao Kiao's lowering her head made him stunned. He didn't have time to think carefully. He quickly reached out to stop her. Unexpectedly, Zhao Kiao, who was dressed up, but was very happy. Without any hesitation, she picked up the Chen's finger and licked it. This intimate action resembled that of a domestic pet dog. At this moment, he also noticed the opened Book of Heaven. Seeing this, he suddenly realized Zhao Kiao's abnormal behavior. Thinking of this, he immediately reached out and commanded Zhao Kiao. Zhao Kiao's eyes lit up instantly when she received the command. And then she seemed to turn into a little dog and jumped up excitedly. Sure enough, the situation that Yagami most didn't want to see happened. Xiao Kiao. Tianshu was privately called to Shaohongshu by the Shen. In order to keep the secret from others, he could only leave the seal. Anyone who looks at the Book of Heaven will. They would be brainwashed into dogs. It just so happens that this little girl saw it. Thinking of her life-saving grace, the Shen couldn't just stand by and watch. Then he no longer hesitated. He immediately commanded Zhao Kiao to turn around and lie on the ground. The longer it takes, the harder it is to recover. He couldn't care less. It was me who hit it. You're lucky. He immediately reached out and grabbed Zhao Kiao's waist and started eating. Facing the symptom of dog soul and human soul fusion, he must be careful to explain. If he uses ordinary spells to forcibly attack, it will only hurt the soul and seriously injure the soul. Only by mastering the secret, extract the dog soul alone, Xiuxianjie can get off safely. The separation of the dog soul. It still had a huge impact on Xiuxianjie's soul. Fortunately, it was not a big deal. He also fell into a coma again. After such a disaster, I hope she can have a good dream to relieve it. Seeing that Xiuxianjie had fallen into a deep sleep, while completely relieved, he was ready to leave by retrieving the Book of Heaven. But when he thought of the message his apprentice left, he was still very puzzled. While the two were still in a deep sleep, he took the opportunity to leave. But before he could turn around and leave, he was caught by Xiuxianjie. He looked back and found that his brows were tightly locked, which was obviously a nightmare. Before the Shen could break free, he began to talk to himself. Master, can you not leave Xiuxiao alone? The Shen, who couldn't stand seeing women cry, so he had to wipe her tears. There was no way. He could only sigh and sit by her side without leaving. As a god of the human world, how could he leave his lonely apprentice alone? He is the only master in the world who is proficient in divination. But now she is willing to marry a man as a cow and a horse. But she gave herself for free, but was stabbed in the chest by a dagger. In an instant, he could no longer hold on and shed tears of despair. The poor girl doubted herself until her death. If she did something wrong, just now, affected by the Book of Heaven, the Shen had to take Xiuxianjie with him. But the departure of the Shen and Xiuxianjie make Luanyan anxious. Is this the reason why you didn't bring back the Venerable? Facing the Empress's questioning, the woman under the stage was already trembling with fear. Your Majesty is the eldest disciple. How could the Venerable leave without saying goodbye? The Shen, the more frightened woman, immediately kowtowed to explain. I heard that a female cultivator fell into a coma to save him. There must be a follow-up story. Luanyan also immediately spoke to save her life. It is said that the Venerable left without saying goodbye. That he left without saying goodbye. Wen Yan, the indifferent and ruthless Empress, today smiled unexpectedly. Those who are familiar with the female emperor's personality all know what this smile means. Luanyan, who was expected to be furious, she regained her calmness. Next, I will personally invite the Venerable back to the city. Wen Yan is you. She subconsciously wanted to stop him. But when she saw Luanyan's cold and ruthless eyes, she was directly scared to be speechless. Fortunately, Luanyan is not a ruthless person. Now even my dear minister wants to take charge of me? Unexpectedly, he knew. Although Le Cui's maid immediately kowtowed and apologized, but when it comes to the recent situation in the world, he still risked his life. Ruanyan, who knew all this? Ruanyan could only sigh helplessly. After reaching the realm of life and death, might launch a sneak attack at any time. Calm down. He realized that he couldn't leave at all. Helplessly, he could only summon General T and Xia Chun to help him. My dear, you need to invite the Venerable back for me. At this time, Yagami is still trying to get rid of Xiuxianjie's entanglement. You know, He couldn't even use the art of the Book of Heaven. But he was still followed by Xiao. He had already removed the silver box of the Book of Heaven. So helpless, Zhao Qiao could only reach into her chest again and fumbled back and forth. The next second, 2 guiding talismans were taken out. Although the silver deer talisman is precious, but to find, it's not a waste to find the Shen. Seeing this, the Shen was speechless. It's endless. He couldn't bear it anymore. No more patience. In an instant, the guiding talisman was burned to ashes. Zhao Qiao not only didn't feel sorry, but became more excited. Senior, you are indeed still nearby, right? However, there was still dead silence in response. Obviously, Xiao Tao was already desperate. Now he can finally get rid of them. The cave is not suitable for outsiders to enter, so he was left.